Hope you're doing well. Week 23. We're almost halfway through the year. Summer's upon us. Hopefully we get a little more sun than rain. I like the rain though. It helps with the garden. Other than that, I've been traveling the last few weeks and have been blessed to spend time back at Luther Rice and then spend time with my mother, which was a tremendous blessing. I want you to think about something that is very important for us as believers, especially in the time frame that we're living in. An election coming, a lot of, how can I say it, voices coming from various directions, opinions, a tremendous amount of animosity, people that are either you're with them or against them. You simply can't discuss things, it seems like. In the midst of all this, we as Christians could get to the place where we just feel a little discouraged. One thing I want to remind you of is that God is the one who rules over the nations. It's very clear that he has that place and position. That hasn't changed. He has declared in Isaiah 46:10, the end from the beginning. He is the one that 150 years prior to Cyrus's arrival on the scene as the Medo-Persian Empire rose up, he predicted that he would release the Israelites from their captivity. So he's in charge. And interesting there in Isaiah 45 and verse 7, he says, "You didn't even know me. Though you don't know me, I'm going to use you." So, look, God's in charge. We see that throughout the Old Testament. We see it clearly in the book of Daniel, where God is ruling over the nations and in charge of what is going to come about. So there is a sense where we need to learn to rest. And I understand that many of the things that are happening in our culture today are very troubling, seemingly unjust. One person being treated one way, others simply not being treated the same way for the things that they've done. I get it. But this is where you and I really are distinctly different. And this is where our relationship to Christ comes into play. In Philippians chapter 1 and verse 27, the Apostle Paul talks to the Christians and he tells them, look, I want you to walk worthy of the gospel of Christ. And the word there, walk worthy, is the Greek verb polituo. We get politics from this. But it actually means to conduct yourself based upon the rules, the standard, the culture, the laws of the culture. Well, obviously, as you can see in that text, the believers at Philippi, although they were Philippians, they were part of the Roman Empire. Many of them were citizens of the Roman Empire. They were to conduct their lives based on another standard, another law, if you will, cultural norm that was to be the means by which they regulated their lives. And for us as Christians, we can get so swept up in trying to change the culture or to impose our beliefs on them that we lose sight of the fact that God didn't place us here to change the culture. He placed us here to be a testimony of his life, which comes down to the gospel, the truth of the God who became man, who was fully God and fully man, who became the sacrifice, as Paul so clearly states in 1 Corinthians 15 and verse 3 and on, became the sacrifice for our sins, who died on the cross, judged by God in our stead, and then was raised on the third day, and has given us the instruction through his Spirit and by virtue of his word to live out our life in relationship to him by the same measure and the same standard of the love that sent him to the cross. We live by a different law. It's called the law of Christ. It's called the royal law of love in the book of James in the first chapter. It's that which motivates us in the world around us. We're not here to tell people how to live. We're here to live by the standard of Christ. And in so doing, we represent to them a truth that is eternal, that has value and substance, that changes and alters and transforms lives. So for you and I, folks, I know it can be discouraging, and believe me, no one gets more discouraged than I do. I hate to think of the nation that my grandchildren are going to grow up in, and I fear what may happen. I also know this: God sits above the circle of the earth. He decides and declares these things to be. There's a rest that we can come to knowing that our God is providentially involved. Secondly, there is an incredible mandate for us to live based upon the Christ that we've come to know, and that by doing that, we become salt and we become light to a world that does not know him. Our speech, our actions, our attitude. Till next time, friends, God bless you.